So we are talking about lesbian bed death today, and I'm thinking this is not something you've experienced, Nick.
Not quite, but I am really glad that we're having a week devoted to lesbians and queer women because I don't think we have done enough of that.
Yes, queer women, yay. I'm thinking that as a queer woman, I have experienced bed death, not lesbian bed death in particular, but I have experienced that, and I think it's so we're going to stay a little bit in what happens with two women together, but really, I think what we're going to talk about is a phenomenon of different needs within ourselves and how that we go into one area a lot and then something arises and we're like, ooh, I'm so in this area. Anyway,
Yeah.
to be more specific, I really think that women, and I'm stereotyping here, which I hate doing, but I do think women tend to be, and have, like our culture raises us to be very relational, like take care of the other in order to get your own needs met. Take care of the other to get
Right.
your own needs met. So it's this thing that we're taught really early on. So you've got two of these people who are taking care of the other in order to get their needs met quickly, doing that a lot, right? And so the stereotype, the U-Haul situation is because women are doing what they know how to do best. And it feels fantastic. It feels fantastic to love someone. It feels fantastic to just have this person that you're like totally clicking with. And then oftentimes what happens is that there's so much closeness and you're my lover, you're my best friend, you're my confidant. We're talking, we're making financial decisions, like we're doing everything sort of, we're very, very together. So I'm kind of looking at this like this is what feels safe initially, right?
Mhm.
It's like this merging.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I do want to respect that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a real and very beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And then something else starts to happen. And I do remember feeling like this, except it was with a man. I remember feeling like this is my best friend, and it feels a little, I don't feel sexual towards this person. I feel
Right.
differently towards this person, right? So somehow in all of that closeness and safety,
Mhm.
right, that's something was lost.
Mhm.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it just makes me think like as much as you're kind of loving and accepting the part of you that's merging, and it feels so good to, I guess, like do your best to also love the part of yourself that wants a bit of like independence or wants to
Yeah.
stay connected to parts of your life that are really just yours. And I'm just curious about, okay, so let's say you haven't done that and you're really in the merge state, which I've definitely worked with men that are in this state too. Um, that is, that you're really merged with the person, you don't want to fuck them anymore, right? And so let's talk about just being there and like how to be with that and what you might do to move forward when you're in that position.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I do think that, okay, I'm going to speak as a lesbian. I do think that what I was saying about the culture valuing certain things in me, I think it values my ability to love and it values my ability to be safe, keep safety, right? I don't think the culture at large values this independent part of me as much that
Right.
that wants to, like, I have wild hair. I don't that, so that is more hidden. It's a little bit more pushed down, right? And so let's say I'm in a relationship and this is occurring and I'm with this person who's been my lover, my best friend, everything, and I don't want to fuck her anymore. It's
Mhm.
like what do I do now? It's like first there's the awareness, like what's going on. We've created so much safety, but I've lost this thing. It's almost like I've lost being this other person that I am too. So
Mhm.
I'm not just safety and love and generosity and caring. I'm really kind of wild too. But
Right.
now this wild part of me doesn't feel like, I mean, society doesn't want me to let her anywhere to go anywhere. And she certainly is not going to be welcoming. Like we think this, right? She's not going to be welcome in this relationship.
Right. Right. And a lot of times probably in reality isn't welcomed in the relationship because the other woman has been socialized in the same way and can very easily shame that part of you as she is shaming that part in herself, right?
Yes, totally, totally, totally. I don't come to this conversation with any big solve. I think mostly what I want to think about is how do we find love and generosity for ourselves in that as human beings, we're going to have these great needs for safety.
Hmm.
And we're
Hmm.
also going to have these other needs too. And
Hmm.
so we might have a life that looks like a lot of safety for some time and then a great need to break. And because it's like, I've got to go visit this lost person. And that could look like, and that could be a breakup. It could be opening the relationship. Could be a lot of things, right? I do always when I talk to couples, I talk about keeping these things kind of on the table because maybe we don't have to go so far down one area before we start to realize that we're missing other parts, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a concept that we say pretty often, which is I think part of accepting that your partner has other parts is also like accepting that we have so many parts that we don't even know ourselves fully. Um, and so I guess if you find yourself in that merge state, maybe just as opposed to focusing on maybe whether your partner has parts they're not telling you about, maybe just bringing the awareness to your own internal vastness and like acceptance that yeah, you have these other parts too. And then figuring out ways, I don't know, to talk to each other about like I'm imagining you talking to a partner about your wild hair and like wanting that part to really be loved and accepted. But like how I'm curious if you can imagine that conversation and like what that would be like for you.
Well, I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head, until I can really love that part of myself,
Hmm.
they are not actually going to be able to. Right.
Right.
So it's like the work is internally. But again, when one gets to that place where they can really love, they're probably quite far into a relationship. They're maybe a little bit older, right? Or maybe not. Maybe they've done the work really very young. But yeah, it's knowing and loving all the parts of yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
there's another piece here that I don't know if will feel related, but this idea of safety, I think we women are also socialized to think that we need safety from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think true safety is it's inside of us. Like we are the ones that keep ourselves safe, right?
Mm-hmm. It also just, I mean, it just makes me think of the reality of women being more unsafe in the world. And so that also being, the merge would be that much more tempting given how much more danger there is in the outside world.
Definitely. Yeah, I do think that that's true. And I think also, you know, I mean, there's so many political reasons that that feels good to merge with another woman too, right? In this world, yeah, lots of stuff.
I think about the Dan Savage talks about this one concept as well, which is just like when you and your partner start as each other's adventure, like you're so exciting to each other. And then eventually like, it's not so much the case. And at that point you go on adventures together.
Yeah,
Whatever that looks like maybe it's having sex outside somewhere or something, or like I would recommend as like a more someone who is more kind of in the open slash poly world, I would recommend bringing somebody in, but like, what is the adventure if you do find yourself in a merged state that maybe you can go on together? That could be just like such a small adventure. Like it might just be like a different room in your house, it might be on the kitchen counter, but like, what is the adventure you could go on together? I think that's a question I've thought about for myself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do think, and this is across all relationships, that it's like I learn what your number is, and so I beeline to it. And we just get boring, we just get really boring. But I do think if we've been in this safety journey for so, so long, I do think this can be really difficult because it can get to the point where like, oh yeah, I realize I want to do some crazy things, but I don't want to do it with her anymore. You know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so and I just when that is true, a lot of people continue on because the companionship is so important. And I'm great. Um, but just to have like compassion for yourself, that this is like a human problem, you know,
Mm,
this kind of balancing safety and your also your sort of alive, vibrant raw
yeah.
self.
Erotic. Yeah. So the erotic is so often attached to novelty. And so what does that look like within a committed long-term relationship? That's the question that everybody just has to figure out for themselves, I feel like.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.